Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Redneckanize, the home of the do-it-yourself trucker. When everything goes wrong, you gotta Redneckanize. We'd like to thank one of our supporters, DPF Regeneration. The folks at DPF Regeneration have always looked out for truckers. Today's technology in big trucks has gotten more and more complicated, especially when it comes to those particulate filters. DPF filters need to be serviced, cleaned, and sometimes replaced, and DPF Regeneration handles it all. They have the knowledge, the network, and the inventory to get what truckers need to stay out on the road making money. Give them a holler at 800-634-3010 or check them out at www.webacem.com. Plain and simple, DPF Regeneration. You know, the next thing on the list that OOIDA sent in their letter to the president-elect was truck parking. And this is another one that I don't really understand what the federal government can do to help that. It's complicated. And their article went like this: providing a sufficient amount of safe parking spots for the truck drivers is one of the key issues confronting the industry. The current truck parking crisis is a serious highway safety concern. OOIDA wrote, OOIDA favors dedicated federal funding to expand truck parking capacity. More federal dollars must be spent to increase capacity instead of introducing ineffective technology in signage that only notify drivers when spots are open, or in many cases when spots are simply full. OOIDA asked the Biden administration to support H.R. 6104, which would provide hundreds of millions of dollars to add truck parking spaces. We went through all this before, and it's always an issue. And I remember we had a thing back in the day, I don't know if anybody remembers, but it was called Jason's Law. And it called that because a great driver that was from New York, I believe, traveled down to South Carolina to deliver a load. And he got there early and he couldn't stay on the customer's parking lot, so he had to go find another place to park. Well, he parked at like a closed down gas station. And that's where he was. And somebody walked up to him, and of course, I don't know if they chatted him up a little bit, but they tried to rob him, and they shot him, and he died. And that is not good for truckers. We don't like that at all. And what OOIDA did is got with a lot of other safety groups, and of course the widow of Jason, and it was a big push, and it was a great thing. What I saw in that was that the money that they were trying to allocate from the federal government was just going to be going to like cities and states to help them pay for truck parking. And I didn't really agree with that, because the truck parking, okay, that gas station, if that gas station was set up to be a truck parking lot where it was safe, like well lit and all that, it's private property. So really, the owner of that could have maybe set it up to do that. And maybe the owner could have asked the federal government for some kind of grant to create truck parking. And I think that there should be money available to private businesses to create an area of their property for truck parking. That wasn't anywhere near what the first Jason's Law did. Now this H.R. 6104 that was introduced, it says it was introduced on March 5th of 2020, Truck Parking Safety Improvement Act. It says this bill directs the Department of Transportation to set aside certain funds through the fiscal year 2025 to provide parking for the commercial motor vehicles on the federal aid highway system. DOT must use the funds set aside to provide competitive grants to states, metropolitan planning organizations, local government, and certain public agencies for projects that provide parking for commercial motor vehicles on federal aid highways or on a facility with reasonable access to such a highway or a freight facility. See, that's the thing. It doesn't say any kind of private businesses. It says it should be for state, local government, city, municipalities, and those kind of agencies. So, maybe the private company could go through the city and get that money to do that, but it all depends on control and all that. And I think there's a lot of private owners that probably could take advantage of that, if they were allowed to, especially if it was some kind of steady flow of income to them. In my opinion, maybe the states could do more themselves, where they could say, let's provide some kind of tax incentive to a business within a certain radius of a highway, to where if you provide truck parking, then we'll give you, a break. Like if a Walmart sets up shop out on Interstate 40, the state could say, hey, if you build your Walmart and you set up 20% of your parking lot for truck parking, then 20% of that, whatever that square footage is, would be deducted from your property tax, or even more. I mean, it's a great incentive. My beef is that there are a lot of stores or businesses or even warehouses that restrict trucks from parking on their property when they're sitting just literally right next to an interstate. And they buy this property right next to the interstate, especially businesses like the shopping centers. They want to sell, they want to have business, they want to have traffic, they want to have people to see them. So they set up on the interstate. Well, then when they shut down at night, they have this huge parking lot that they don't allow nobody to park at. And they've got security to run truck drivers off. Now, a big debate could be had of who's the reason for that. Hey, if truck drivers aren't acting right, if they're throwing their trash out or leaking oil everywhere, serves a purpose that they shouldn't be allowed to park there. But I mean, if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, taking care of our equipment and not dirtying up the parking lot, then they should be able to allow us to park there and shouldn't have any reason not to, because they're right next to the interstate. And if we're required to shut down for at least 10 hours every 24-hour period, we need places to park. It's just, if you're requiring that, then you need to have the space available. And the private sector is really not able. And I'm gonna say this: the private sector wants to have truck parking, they just can't because it's expensive. And so we're either gonna have to pay up from our own pocket, or there's gonna have to be more money spent from the government, which means higher taxes, or there's gonna have to be more laws and restrictions, which I don't really like. So something's got to be done for truck parking. You can't have a state like, I remember Texas. They passed this big infrastructure bill to have rest areas. They're going to expand all their rest areas. Well, they made the rest area just north of Austin. It was pretty big, but it wasn't big enough. And then of course they don't have that much land, because there's a lot of private property along the Interstate 35. So this rest area needed to be 3 times as big as it actually is. Okay. But then when they did build a huge rest area, they did it way out there on US 287, about an hour and a half south of Amarillo. And I mean, the place was never full because it was in the middle of nowhere. Okay. In fact, I think I stopped there one time and I lost cell signal. I mean, it didn't have any good cell phone coverage, and so it's always empty. There's hardly anybody parked there. And, because I mean, you drive a little bit further south and you got a place that has a restaurant, or you go, like I said, another hour and a half north and you're in Amarillo. So it's one of those things where you can't build a huge parking lot out in the middle of nowhere and say, oh yeah, we're definitely supporting trucker parking. Well, that's not serving the purpose. You need to have truck parking where the trucks are, which are in the big cities. And, something's got to be done for that. So, maybe there's a private industry solution. Maybe there isn't, but we're forced to shut down for 10 hours every 24 hours. We need parking. And I think everybody can agree on that.